Hi, everybody. Good morning. It is Sunday here, and on the East Coast, it is almost 7:30 a.m. We are about to kick off the Loon Mountain Race, which is the championship race. So the top two men and women will get to represent us on the vertical mountain team, which is pretty exciting. So this race is about 6 miles, and there are 2 athletes from Canada and 27 states represented. So that's pretty awesome. We have that many people that went up to New Hampshire representing that East Coast. We want to get more people over here. So this is going to be a pretty exciting race. We're going to do our best to live stream, and so you guys can get a feel of what's going on here. I'm Ellie Pell. I'm from the Trails Collective, and then we have Paul from the U.S. Mountain Running Team, and we have Tom Hopper, who is the race RD. We've got elite runner Patrick Heron on course. He's going to be following the athletes around.
Never going on.
We'll be able to give a pretty good look as to how things are going. This race is 6 miles, and it was started in 2006. And so it starts off pretty mellow, as you'll see, but it gets pretty gnarly towards the end, and we end with this awesome section called the upper walking boss. And so literally people are on their hands and knees walking up the course. So it's going to be pretty cool to watch that. So we're just waiting for the race start here. So I'm going to stop talking so that everybody can watch the race start. And then Paul and I are going to be leading you through. So let's watch. They're not sure how it's going to go, but I think about what. And Pete already in the chat. Thank you. I can change my nickname. And the women are off. This is going to be an exciting race for the women. We have a lot of Olympians in the or Olympic team members in the field. A lot of skiers, actually. We've had a lot of Olympians represented at this race before. Some that you might know, like Magdalena Goulet, but also other biathletes that are that have represented us before, like Sean Dougherty, Jake Brown, and then a lot of cross-country skiers as well. Caitlin Patterson is actually racing today, and so it'll be really exciting to see how she mixes it up. The men are going to go off at 8 in the morning, and so Patrick is going to get to the leaders pretty soon. Some of the cell coverage is a little bit spotty, but we'll add Patrick here to the stream, and so he's going to try and get video when he can, but it might be a little bit of audio. So he's going to tell us the bib numbers so we can keep you guys informed as to who is in the lead. I hope you all did your Freetrail Fantasy drafts. I'm looking forward to seeing how this race plays out because such a short course. It can be anybody's day out there. So I've got a couple teammates out there. Specifically, I'm looking forward to watching Mason Kobe run. He got 4th last week at Whiteface, and he's a very talented up-and-coming runner. So hopefully he gives all those other more experienced runners a little bit of competition run for their money out there. So. So in addition to the race serving as the U.S. Vertical Mountain Running Championships, the top 2 runners will also get automatic spots on the U.S. team that's going to compete in Suiza, Italy at the end of August. So that's pretty exciting as well. This could really be a race that launches somebody's career. And so although it's awesome to see the favorites and the pro runners win, it's also a really great opportunity for other runners that might not have as much exposure to getting out there. So that's pretty awesome as well. The race director is Tom Hopper from 603 Endurance. And then Paul is going to be joining me from USATF, and he's a member of the U.S. Mountain Running Team staff and the chair for the U.S. Mountain Ultra Trail Circuit. So he's going to be helping me and make it a little bit more interesting for you guys. So there isn't as much dead space. So yeah, it's going to be pretty great. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Ellie. So yeah, you just saw we got the start off.
Did we have Ellie, any recent drops from the list that maybe people are like, oh crap, my Freetrail Fantasy is going to be not so great?
Bethany Sackelbin, she dropped.
Oh, okay.
It's actually, she's still recovering from whiteface more than she planned. So
yeah, there are some people doing the double, like Sophia is as well, Mason is as well, James or Joseph Demore, who actually had a little bit of an issue at the end of whiteface. So I'll be interested to see how those athletes have recovered. And then, I mean, sometimes if you're on a roll like Sophia, she might also just keep rolling with that momentum and do pretty well.
And actually, Sophia is not running today.
Okay.
I don't know if you can, Ellie, can you mute the race start camera?
I can.
I don't know if you can do that because I forgot to turn it off.
There we go.
Thanks. Because it's like right over near me. Yeah. So actually, Sophia, just the training plan for her Nordic training, it didn't fit in for her to do another race right away. But yeah, I know Caitlin Patterson, she's doubling up, Andy Wacker as well. Like once we get to the men, who else? Rachel Tamachek is, and let's see. So yeah, so Rachel Tamachek, she is also doubling up. She's been here actually all week, kind of getting used to stuff.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of runners that flew over just stayed.
Yeah, they did. So I don't know if it would be helpful to talk a little bit about the course while we're waiting for the next update.
Yeah, I gave a little bit of background, but just like how long the course is and if that it's the mountain champs and stuff. But yeah, give us the lowdown on what's going to happen out there.
Sure. So kind of a cool thing about this race, the higher you go, the harder it gets. And so the first mile, you know, I always refer to it as the track meet because you're climbing, but it's all on service road. It's pretty fast. A lot of times you'll see some of the faster runners really try and take it out hard there. And then they head into Nordic ski trails, which is, it's like wide single track. And they're in there through mile 2, I believe. And still you can be pushing it pretty hard. It's always interesting to see the real climbers start to take over at about mile 3.5 into the race. And so it's always interesting to see who pushes it too fast in the beginning versus who's going to save a little, you know, for the real climbing sections.
Yeah. So explain the upper walking boss. Explain that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny when we founded it back in 2006, we were trying to get enough vertical to have it be a mountain team qualifier race. And we went to the top of the gondola and we're meeting with the people from Loon and we're like, this is it. And they're like, well, you could go over there. We're looking at North Peak and we're like, how do we get there? And they kind of pointed over. And so we added that in. And it's interesting too, because after they reach essentially around the top of the gondola, which is Loon Peak, which is the lower of the 2 peaks at the mountain, they actually descend down 500 feet in about half a mile. Before they hit upper walking boss. So you kind of have the balance of, you know, you can get some people, like I remember one of the first years the race occurred, Carl Swenson, who's a Nordic skier, Olympian, and Ben Nephew were kind of battling it out for 3rd and 4th place. And every time they hit a downhill, Ben would catch up. And every time they hit a climb, Carl would take off. And so you'll see the really good speedsters on the downhill may be able to catch up in that haulback trail section where they descend, and then they make the hard right turn. And it's about 1 kilometer or maybe a little less. Upper walking boss, it averages a 40% grade. It's on ski slope. It's steep enough in the winter to groom it. They have a cable actually attached to the top of the mountain that then they slide the groomer down because it's that steep to get traction. But it's the type of place in the race. It can be a real mind game because you can have somebody, they look like they're right in front of you. And in fact, they're 45 seconds ahead of you. And so that's always the challenge. Very few people run all of Upper Walking Boss. Kim Dobson ran all of Upper Walking Boss when she was here one year. Joe Gray runs up all of Upper Walking Boss. But otherwise, often you get the really good power hikers do well on Upper Walking Boss. And you can see people move up 3, 4, 5 places depending on, you know, what they have left in the tank versus other people.
Yeah, I think this course is really interesting because, you know, one of the thoughts that I had was, well, where is the race? Like, what decides the race here? But because of the difference in terrain and like the ups and the downs, like it really isn't good equalizer. You got a little bit of runnable section for those fast people. And then you've got those uphill sections for the skiers. And then the downhills for the people with the more technical terrain background where, I mean, if you fall on your face, like it doesn't matter how fast you are, you're going to, that race might be over for you. So it's a really interesting concept that this course is so short, but it still has the length to equalize the fields.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting today. We get a lot of, all right, and they're Camp 3, so that's our first aid station. Looks like they just came online as a camera, which is great. And that's right after they come out of the Nordic section. So it's about the 3-mile mark into the race, maybe a little earlier. But Tom Hooper describes this as you kind of need the Swiss Army knife skills for this race. If you're just a pure climber, it may not be enough. But if you're just a speedster, it's not going to be enough either. It's interesting. We were fortunate to get a lot of Nordic athletes that come over from Vermont, from the biathlon team and Craftsbury Green Racing Project. And they always add an interesting component to the race because they're all good climbers. And so you often see them really excelling in the second half of the race where it is just the grind, where they may not be competing, you know, they may not keep up with the really fast road or trail people in those first 3 miles, but then they're going to start picking people off. So yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see, you know, strategy, what happens here. I think in the women's race, I'm most curious to see, and we'll have to see when they come through, one athlete in particular, Lauren Gregory. This is her return to mountain running. She was the 2017 junior bronze medalist at the World Championships in Primana, Italy. She's been a college standout at Arkansas. Her 5K PR is like 15:48 for 5,000 meters. So she's got both legs, and she's from Colorado. She still knows how to run mountains. So I'm very curious to see how she fares today, where she's got really that perfect combination of speed as well as climbing.
Yeah, and I'll be interested also, how do you think people like Anna May or like a Jared Burdick, who have had a lot of success at like the longer trail races, but I guess I haven't, I don't know if Anna May has more of like has also like a past history doing something shorter. Do you know how do you think people that, you know, they excel like the longer trail, but tough trail, like Speed Goat's pretty tough is what she's known for. How do you think they are going to fare today? Do you think do you think it's going to be a little bit like, it's not long enough for them to, there's Patrick.
Yep.
It's not long enough for them to activate their speed legs?
It'll be interesting to see, because what I think might come into play there, I was actually talking with Anna May yesterday, and she said this is the year she decided to go down and do a few races. She was going to do Mount Washington, but then she had some health issues. But she's really trying to kind of check out some of the shorter stuff this year. What I'm expecting from people like her is, I feel like if you do well at Speed Goat, you've got to have endurance and strength, and that could really pay off for her in the second half. I think she could be able to pick off some people who did go out too fast. And, you know, like any mountain race, you know, once you redline, it's hard to come back and ever get back in it. And so I'm very curious to see, you know, whether people like her, or as you said, Jared, whether, you know, we're going to see them excel in the second half, where they may not have as much leg speed as some of the other people, but they certainly still have all that climbing strength and endurance.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit earlier about getting enough vertical for this to be a mountain course. So with I kind of want to know a little bit about the process of how race courses get decided, and so what's the criteria, and how did you make this course? How did you make this course specific to that criteria?
Well, so yeah, originally, ideally, your championship course is somewhat similar to what the world champs is for that same time. This race, it was originally designed to mirror as much as it could a couple of the uphill courses that were in Italy, like 2012 and 14, especially in those years. But really, it's about ideally you can mirror it up down races. It's almost easier to mirror. Here we may not have enough some years to mirror because we just run out of elevation. But really, one of the things for the teams we want to try and do is make sure we have a course that's going to test them on similar surfaces and things like that. Because going back to the 2000s, races like Mount Washington sometimes were used as a qualifier, and they're amazing races. But the challenge there can be, do you have people that are prepared to run very technical trails at Worlds if they can just run fast on paved uphill? And so that's one of the criteria for a mountain championships is you want to have something that's going to test footing, terrain, agility, on trail type of stuff. And then, elevation, ideally it gets about the same elevation as Worlds. But it's more just making sure I'll call it in the spirit of that. So we're making sure we see people who have that combination of speed and vertical climbing ability.
Yeah, and also I think it's convenient for these two races that are both like on the East Coast. I mean, Whiteface is it's a drivable distance, the two terrains. So I think getting to Alaska is a haul, and it might not. It's sometimes just, I know that's sometimes a limiting factor. I mean, even for professionals, it's like I know they have a travel budget, and it's like if this one flight is going to cost me $2,000 of that $5,000 travel, but so I like that. At least this year, I think also varying the courses and changing each year is probably a good thing too. But I think it's convenient, at least this year, for athletes that maybe they did, like Mason just missed out on the podium last week, and he's like, well, I'm just going to try again. And I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. And it's been nice. And some, like Mason, actually did Mount Washington as well. So it has been nice to have some athletes, as you said, and they stayed around for the week. Some actually went home and came back, but it has been really fun to see. And I love, we all call it the Beast Coast. I love that we can kind of share our mountain stuff, which may not have the elevation or, the elevation as out west, but certainly I think we have trails that can test your climbing ability, even if they're closer to sea level.
Yeah. Are you familiar with, oh, great. I think Patrick's about to come online. So I'm going to take the race start off really quick, or maybe and then I'll add Patrick. Patrick is our runner cam. Hi, Patrick. And he's going to be, right now he doesn't have video, but we'll get it eventually. It's just a spotty service. Hear me? So just bear with us. Yep, I can hear you, Patrick. How we doing out there?
Can you hear me at all?
Yes, Patrick, we can hear you. Oh, maybe he can't hear us. Oh. Well, hopefully we'll get some feed from Patrick a little bit just to get us to figure out.
The service is pretty spotty, but if you can hear me, I can read off the bib numbers of the first 10 women.
All right, great. Thank you. Yes, Patrick's going to read off some bib
awesome.
numbers.
So mile 1 into the course at about, can you hear me okay? I will send them in the chat.
I don't think he can hear us, but we can hear him. But yeah, that's all right. He's in a spot where there's just audio connection. As he moves up the mountain, he'll be able to get get more actual video. He's like in the perfect dead spot on the course for anything but audio. But we figured it was a good spot for him to be because where he is right before they duck into the Nordic Trails section, where we were saying, you know, that first mile is pretty fast. It's pretty gradual. So he's got the bib numbers there.
We've got Lauren Gregory, your bronze medalist, I think is in the top pack there. So we're not exactly positive who's first. We will see runners coming through Camp 3. So hopefully we can get Heather or whoever the Camp 3 person is to give us a little bit of information there as well. So right now it looks like we've got Rachel also in the top 3, Rachel Tamachek, who we talked about.
All right, so I was going to say, Ellie, are you looking through, or I can pull out bib numbers as well?
Yeah, I'm looking through. It's slow going, you know, at 7:45 here in the morning.
And
Carly Rampo also in the top 3.
Carly Rempel, okay, she's competing actually not in the championships, but she's Canadian, so she keeps her Canadian citizenship to be able to compete for Canada.
Corey Dow, who got 4th last week at Whiteface, so she's also, I bet, looking for that podium spot to get on the team. Alexandra Lawson, Nordic skier. She placed 9th at Mount Washington, former member of the World Ski Team.
Yeah, she was an under 23 world ski team or U.S. team. It'd be interesting to see how she does. She was kind of just starting see where her racing was at Mount Washington. So now she's had a few more weeks of training. So and who else was in that group?
We got Margie Freed, another skier. Do you know much about Margie?
Yeah, Margie is another Craftsbury Green Racing Project athlete. And this is what's going to be interesting to see. Some people who might not be on the mountain running radar, how they do today. And she's another, I believe she was a Middlebury skier, if I remember correctly. But yeah, she, you know, another one to be mixing it up there as part of the Nordic athletes.
Alexandra. We have a couple that aren't on the list, so we're gonna have to keep an eye out for them. I know Michelle Merlis also. She decided not to come out to run today. She's already on the team for the marathon or 40K distance, I think. So that's going to be like your top group at the moment. It looks like to me. Well, Annika Landis as well, another skier. Yeah, so we've got some people that are really in contention for that. Like I'm really interested to see how bad Corey Dow wants it. That race looked real tough last week, and that 6 miles took them about 90 minutes. So and right now, what mile are they at the moment, too?
They're in the 2nd mile right now.
Okay, yeah.
They're in the Nordic section. So next we'll see them after as they start in the 3rd mile at Camp 3. So, right. Ellie, what were some of the other bib numbers? Because I can look them up on the master list.
You should actually be able to also look at the chat on the side. It says private chat. But I think we got most of them all. We have 1576. 1426, 1578, 1599, 1166, 1519.
Yeah, and actually, I'm sorry, I now see the chat. So yeah. Let me.
And then I'll just add that actually to the YouTube comments so people can look at that. So we'll post that in the other chat for the people watching at home. And then so we'll see them at Camp 3, and then hopefully that has a little bit better coverage, and then hopefully Patrick can follow them a little bit there. I hope that the start-finish line feed comes back up because the men should be starting in about 5 minutes.
All right, we've got our first runners coming into Camp 3.
All right, can you yell out the bib numbers?
1576.
26.
Nice job. Nice job.
They're
I
there.
think that was Rachel who was next.
Yeah, there they go.
All right, your next one's coming up.
Lauren Gregory was first, and I think it was Rachel.
Yeah, and Rachel's second. Yes.
1578.
Oh, that was you.
Nice work.
That's Megan Lacey is 1578.
Oh, good. She also ran last week at Whiteface.
Yeah, she was
I got
seventh at Whiteface. I know she was excited. She thought her speed would translate well here at Loon.
It looks like it is.
1519 is coming up the hill.
It was 1519, it sounded like. That's Alex Lawson, one of the skiers from Craftsbury.
And 1644.
And that is Mary Sketch Bryant. So that's one of the ones we didn't have before. She's from Richmond, Virginia. I confess I don't know a lot about Mary.
1360, 1599, and 1539.
1360 is Caitlin Patterson. And 1599 is Carly Rempel. And did you catch the other number in there?
I believe it was
Ellie?
Amber Ferreira. I didn't catch her number.
Okay.
Okay, 1539.
That's correct. And
1539 is and 1166, that is Amber Ferreira. She was actually second at Mount Washington. 1166 is Corey Dow coming through. And so the runners have essentially gotten through what I'll call the track meet part of the course. And now the real climbing is going to begin. They're going to keep climbing up the service road.
Here comes 1141.
And then after that, they will descend in some ski slope area. 1141 is Lila Gadro. She's only 19, Cape Elizabeth, Maine, but she's run the Mount A 50K. She's won it twice. She's a very good young runner. So we'll see how she fares today.
Yeah, so we have David Roach in the chat. I bet he coaches Lauren Gregory, saying she's in first from Fayetteville. Said that her plan is to start pushing after the track race. So I'll be interested to see how well she does later.
So that was just the fun run then, it sounds like, David, she was doing for that first. So there's her warm-up done. So I'm going to go, exit off here for a second and go reactivate the start camera for the men.
All right, no problem.
And then I'll be right back on.
All right. So we're getting Patrick to log in still with the coverage, but now that we have runners coming through the aid at Camp 3.
Looks like they got it in drugs already. So.
And from Jerry Bush, we have go 1558. Jerry, who is 1558 now? Uh-oh. Wonder who 1558 is. Report back, Jerry. But soon we're going to also have the men's start. So this has been pretty exciting. It's pretty good that all the runners are within striking distance of each other.
Guys, got a big crew coming through. 1376. 1358, 1359.
1376, Anna Mae. That's what we talked about a little bit.
1094.
1094, Kristen Lane from Aspen, Colorado. Jerry Bush followed up. We have Jessica Reedus. Let's go, Jessica. Jerry, I like your photo. Very old school. Kind of looks like my old Game Boy.
1271's coming through. 11, 12, 1567.
1567 is Annika Landis. Very strong ski runner. We had Anna Mae come through, Paul, just a bit there in the second group of runners. So it looks like we have a little bit of a starting pack and a chase pack. So I'll be interested to see how that shakes up as they get into the climbing section.
Should we call it the Peloton?
The Peloton, yeah. The sit and kick group.
So you can see the race start camera is back on. I actually have it muted, so there's no worry about echo since I'm right over here. But yeah, the men are starting to get ready to line up. It looks like they go off in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they're all getting warmed up. I have never, I have to be honest, I think the shortest distance I've ever actually raced is a half marathon. So I don't even know how to warm up for these things. Like I probably
Hi guys, you got 11
mile.
coming up. 1381.
Come on up. Everybody want to sit? A couple snacks on the table behind me if you're interested.
Well, Ellie, we're a good balance because I've only done one trail marathon,
Grab it.
and everything else I do is shorter than half marathon. So it's a good balance.
Yeah, after the men get off, I do want to ask your opinion about the Cirque series. It's put on by my sponsor, and I'm going up to one of them to
1639.
So I'll be very interested to see how these things actually go off.
Yeah, and actually, while we're waiting for the men to come through here, I remember a conversation I had with David Roach talking about kind of the difference between ultra distances and short distance mountain running. And I think he perfectly said it when he said short races just hurt a lot. Because, you're maybe not redlined the whole time, but you're pushing it pretty hard the whole race and it's over quickly. But, it's kind of like when you run a 5K, if you really race a 5K, that's tough stuff. And that's what they're doing. They're just doing it uphill. And sustaining that for 40 minutes to an hour can be crazy.
Yeah. It's very impressive. People say ultra running is like 90% mental.
All right, so the men are about to go off. And there go the men.
All right, there we go. Let the gambling begin. Wow, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's about 450 men in this race. I think about 350 women, something like that. And we've got excited dogs too. So it'd be interesting to see. Joe Gray is undefeated at Loon. I think he's raced here 3 times, 2014, 16, and 18. I'll be looking. I can see he's up in the lead. Andy Wacker is with him. Can't see who else is up there. Andy's another guy, and I think he did this at Whiteface too. He likes to take it out hard. Both he and Joe know this course really well, so it'll be interesting to see strategy-wise what they do. They both know what to save, where to push and everything. But course knowledge here can help a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder, Joe Gray is a great example because he's just dominant and he's also a person of color. And I think, unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate or we're just more still encouraging on getting more people of color into trail and ultra running. Cause I don't think there's a difference between oh yeah, you can sign up for this race versus we made this race and these things for you, please come. And I think Joe Gray is such a great example of other young people of color, who are just maybe getting into track. Sometimes ultra races are just very intimidating, but he's still doing the shorter things. It's oh, I can run 6 miles. I can do that. I can be like him. And so I really think it's great that he's here and he's representing, and good things for Joe. But
and I love, I feel like he's a fantastic role model. He's also, I know he does some fundraising for local teams to support African-American athletes who are trying to get interested in the sport, which is wonderful. One of the great things about our sport is you can do this sport with a pair of shoes. I always think that if there are barriers for anyone to get into a sport, other sports have a lot of equipment. What I love about our sport is, put on a pair of shoes and you can participate. And I love that lets anybody really try this. So, hopefully something actually related to that in terms of welcoming people and trying to get that, mind I'll mention our Trail Sisters initiative we did a few years back. Probably anyone watching this knows Gina Lucrezzi. Gina, I remember I first met her when she was an Innovate shoe rep in New England, and she would come up and stay with me and my wife. We had our adopted daughter who would come up and stay with us. She'd do a bunch of mountain runs in New Hampshire. And she really wanted to do something to try and encourage more women to get into the sport. And so she started Trail Sisters. And I believe it was 2016, we partnered with her that we gave, you could get into the race for $15 if it was your first time female doing the race. And we went from like 200 women in the race to 450 women in the race. And it was a lot of those women are still coming back. And I'd love to see the same type of initiative to get more people of color in the race for the same reason. It was just like, I feel like you create the welcoming environment and people are going to try it out. And that's what happened with Trail Sisters. I'd love to see, continue that type of growth. Mm-hmm. So where Patrick is, I don't know if Patrick, you can hear us at all.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So about where are you on the course?
I'm at about 3.5, 3.75 of a mile in. And I can see, a quarter mile down and no woman in sight yet, but they should be coming around the corner any minute.
Okay. So are you before they go into the ski section or
Not sure
after?
if that was heard.
Yes, we could
Right
hear
before.
it, Patrick. Right before they come into the ski section. Okay.
And then David
Before.
Roach also in the chat says, after Loon in 2014, I decided that would be my last one of those uphill races.
So I'm actually thinking, Patrick, that because were you at Camp 3 before this? Because I'm actually thinking I wonder if you're in the section where they come back. Because are you past the gondola now?
I think I may have gone a little higher.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're probably in the ski section of the course. That's where they drop down on some ski slope and climb back up. I think you're well after they ducked in, because they would have ducked in about less than half a mile after Camp 3. So I think you're actually above that.
Do you want him to catch them when they come here and then go back for the men?
Yeah, and Patrick, can you see the flags from the course where you are right now? Patrick, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Do you see course flags where you are? I don't know whether you can LAC. Do you see little orange flags in there?
I did see some, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Patrick, have you gone past the gondola?
I'm writing it in the chat for him to see too, but I think spot coverage must not be great.
Yes, I can.
Okay. And Patrick, are you past the gondola right now?
You see my camera?
Yes. Yeah, we can see the flags. I don't know whether we'll put it in there. Patrick, have you gone up above the gondola already?
He must not. It must like be cutting out, so I don't think he
Yeah.
probably can't understand what we're saying. Well,
right.
we'll keep trying. No problem.
Yeah.
As long as we get some of the footage from Camp 3, no problem.
So after they go past Camp 3, what happens? They rejoin back up with the service road for about half a mile as they start climbing, and then they take a hard left turn back into ski slope. They drop down. Tom, how much do you think they drop down there? Quarter mile? Yeah, it's about a quarter mile of a decently steep descent, and then they make another hard right turn to climb back up. And that's all on ski slope. If you haven't run on ski slope, even with the grass cut, it's it's not like you're running on a golf course. The footing's always a little questionable. So you really have to, that's where if you got somebody who's a good descender and they're confident no matter what the surface is on, they might be able to make up a little time. But as we said, it's about a quarter mile descent, and then they do another climb. One of the things I was actually talking to before the race, I was talking to Sean Dougherty, who's one of the U.S. Biathlon. He's run this. He actually ran it his first time when he was 14. But he was saying to me, he's like, downhills are tough. He's just, afterwards, the steepness of the uphill can be magnified by how much you push on the downhill. And so as they start that climb, it'll be interesting to see if Lauren Gregory's still up front there. They make that climb, then they make a short little drop back down to the service road. And then they've got a grind of, it's like a 12 to 15% grade until they get up to the summit of Loon Peak, which is the lower peak. And then from that point, after that second aid station, they've got about a mile and a quarter left to go.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so how many more races are left for the to be a part of like the U.S. mountain running team? Like so there was Breakneck, and then there was Whiteface, and now there's this. Are there any more races?
Good question. I can't think past today, Ellie. I'm sorry. No, I think the rest of the spots are at this point by resume, but I'm not 100% sure. I know, Whiteface, that finalized the classic mountain running team. So those 4 spots are taken. Both Joe Gray and Grayson Murphy are automatic buys onto that team because they're the current reigning world champions. And then the top 3 at that race. But then for the vertical team, if I remember correctly, it was tops at Broken Arrow, and then the top runner here for and I should say vertical mountain running challenge, because it's not really a VK in the traditional sense of super, super steep. And then the top 2 here also are going to go. There is it's like a Nations Cup type of race. It's going to be at the Challenge Stellina in Susa, Italy. It's something that the World Mountain Running Association started last year, where there was no Worlds. They did an invitational race. The U.S. team wasn't able to go due to COVID, not that they had it, due to travel restrictions. But this year, I believe 2 of the athletes and then 1 more will go by resume. But I think this is it for the team at this point.
And then are there alternates?
Typically, no. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with funding. We always take more people than score. So where, if it's 4 people allowed on the team, it's actually 3 that score. So there's already padding that way. And, now the teams with funding and everything, because the funding comes from a combination of USA Track and Field and fundraising by the American Trail Running Association. Unfortunately, the programs are not fully funded by USA Track and Field, but it's something we will we continue to work on to advocate for them. I have my U.S. mountain team staff, but like the mountain team staff, we're all volunteer positions, and our team staff were really, managers, not coaches. And a lot of it is also doing advocacy to make sure that we can get adequate funding. Nancy Hobbs has been phenomenal to be a voice to make sure that our teams are best represented, so we can cover travel costs and everything else related to that.
Yeah, while we're waiting for the men, actually, maybe Tom would know a little bit better, our sponsors for the race. Maybe we should just give out a shout out to them. I know 603 Endurance is Tom Hopper's race
Hooper.
company. And then we have Own, which I believe is a protein supplement.
Yes.
Sam Adams, so protein shake and beer. One hand, it's great. Delta Dental, which I'm very excited about because I am a huge advocate of dental care. And so I was like, oh, awesome. And then Arcturus, I think, is the last one. Am I missing anybody?
I think that's everyone, yes. And kind of a fun story there I'll mention about Delta Dental. Tom Raffio is the CEO of Delta Dental. He also runs about 45 races a year. He's actually running today, so is his wife. And they sponsor so many races, especially in New Hampshire. They sponsor some snowshoe races. They sponsor the Mount Washington Road Race. And then here, their sponsorship, it's kind of a fun prime that they do on it is they sponsor prize money specifically to the fastest 3 men and women on Upper Walking Boss. So there's a timing mat at the base of Upper Walking Boss. There's a timing mat at the finish. And so that's the prize money that they help sponsor. I should also give a shout out to USATF New England. The Mountain Ultra Trail chairperson there. They are providing $1,000 of prize money for specifically USATF New England athletes today, where we give out money to the top 3 men and women as well as top masters. So they're another sponsor for the event. But yeah, Delta Dental, it's, first people are like, wait, why are they involved? And I think, Tom's feeling is dental health is part of overall health. And so, sponsoring activities like this, they're helping to promote physical activity. And then, donations they do, I know through Mount Washington, they give tens of thousands of dollars to a dental nonprofit program for Northern New Hampshire. And then they do a lot of other charity work as well. It's really neat to see. And Tom just loves coming out to the races and talking with all the athletes and everything. It's really fun to see him out there. It's not like if you saw Tom, you might not go, oh, he's the CEO. He's just out here in a running shirt and shorts and hobnobbing with everybody. It's awesome.
Yeah, the heroes walk among us, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And we're crossing our fingers that hopefully Patrick will get
Yeah.
reception
Thank you for
soon.
bearing with us, everybody. The men should be coming to Camp 3 pretty soon. Do we have a finish line, Cam?
We do. I don't see that he's online yet. We have 2 people up there, Joe Viget, photographer, and another guy named Matt as well. And my guess is they may not be, or they may just be at the finish now. And starting to get equipment set up and everything. There's some sweet spots up there to get cell coverage, and it's like you move 20 feet the other way, you may not get it.
Gotcha.
One of the things I can try and do as well, I'm going to hop off here for a second. I'm going to see if I can talk to our timers to see whether, if nothing else, they could give us bib updates through the different spots.
Sounds good.
So,
yeah, I bet the men are coming through Camp 3. So I bet Heather is going to start listing off numbers here pretty soon, and then I can talk about some of the men because I think we've done a pretty good job with the women here. So
yeah, it's exciting. Exciting to see. So excited we're doing this. So yes, I will be right back. All right.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
All right. So Gene Taylor in the chat says that go Brian Boyle, bib number 1749. He just ran the Mount Marathon Road Race in Stewart, Alaska. And so, I don't know if anybody else does, but I get Mount Marathon and then Mount Washington confused. I thought earlier we were talking about Mount Marathon, but we weren't. So bear with me, it's early here. So some of the men that we have that we're looking forward to watching are, of course, we mentioned Joe Gray, but then Joseph D'Amore, I think we mentioned as well. He put in such a great effort last weekend at Whiteface. I think he collapsed right almost at the finish line. And so I think he's got a little bit to say here today. So hopefully he's in that front group. But also to note, I did not know that Joe Gray also has an automatic spot. So even if he does take home the title here, he is not taking a spot from anybody else. So that's pretty awesome. Some other people that I recognize, Garrett Heath. So Garrett came on my radar a couple months ago, actually. I think I remember I was It was the day after a race, and I was, of course, like hobbling along, and I was not running. I was just walking around, I think, downtown Seattle. And I was listening to an episode of the Single Track podcast, and Garrett Heath was on it, and he was talking about making it a transition to do more trail running. And he might have been a Broken Arrow. I don't remember. That seems like it was a couple of years ago, but so he's actually a former Brooks Beast professional athlete who ran on the track and maybe did cross country as well. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he does today. So Garrett Heath is bib number 1354. So that should be pretty interesting. I wonder if it's going to be a situation, like Tabor Hemming from last weekend. She came from the track and amazing athlete.
Down the hill there.
Hey guys, your male leaders are coming through.
Nicely done.
All right, we got our male leaders. Do we know who those are?
Nope, I missed the numbers.
Yeah, all right. Well, at least we got some leaders. Sorry about
All
that.
right, so you've got 4 men just came through. Now you have 1480, 1370.
Guys, want to refill your water? Good job.
1370 is Mike Popejoy. So he's a 2-time member of the U.S. mountain running team.
Time up the mountain. Snacks if you want to grab a snack.
1480 is Eddie Owens. He won last year's Loon Mountain Race. I think I did see Joe Gray.
1665.
1665. Bijan Mazaheri. Top 10 at the VK and 26K at Broken Arrow, OTQer. So
Enjoy. Have a nice time.
1287's coming up the hill.
1287. Mason, good job, Mason.
Now
Keep it up.
29.
Lovely day for a walk.
1117.
Okay.
Nice job.
Morning. Can I interest anybody in a drink?
1117, not on the sheet, so dark horse.
1437.
They will make a mess.
1437.
Some of them are not.
1527.
Yeah, they don't want to slow down. If I can,
1385.
if I can move with them for a
And
second.
1343.
1385, Everett Hackett. And that's all I have on this sheet, so
1672.
Morning. Drink. No. Hey, good job.
1672, another unknown. I have a cheat sheet, you guys, and I'm not just pulling this out of my butt. I got a cheat sheet.
I feel like we're gonna get busy before we slow down again, right?
We might get a
1618's coming through now, followed by 1484.
Oh yeah, of course you can. Just pick.
1484, Sean Dougherty, Olympian.
Welcome. Have a good run.
1332's next up the hill. Followed by 1470.
Water. You're welcome. Have a nice time. Water. You're welcome. Have a good run.
So I have an update.
All right.
So, and the timers they seem to have coverage. So they're going to give me updates. Lauren Gregory is through the base of Upper Walking Boss, and she was alone.
All right, Lauren. I mean, maybe David Roach was right. Lauren just that warm-up lap, and now she's taking names.
Yeah, and that would lend to her track speed there too, and her fearlessness. You know, she's not afraid of mountain running. So
yeah, it looks like the first three met or first. I saw Joe and I think Andy, but that's all I caught. And it looks like Andy was first, Joe was third, Garrett was fourth. We're still working on the other,
all right,
some other people. Did you get a finish line, Cam?
not yet, Joe. I got a text from Joe Vijay that he's working on it.
Great. So when we were talking about the upper walking boss, that's where the top women are right now. So we'll have to see if Lauren goes for the hike approach or the run approach. How far up from the finish is upper walking boss?
I think it's like 0.4 of a mile, and it's just all straight up.
Oh wow! Oh, that's gotta stink. It's like those the marathon courses that are just 2 loops of the half marathon, and so you see the finish, and you're like, oh, I gotta do that again.
Yeah, and this, like, you can't actually see the finish, but you can see where you have to go. Like, it's that steep, and it kind of winds around the corner. And the worst of all might be you think you see the finish, and then when you it's like when you're hiking or trail running on a mountain and you're going, oh, there's the summit, and then you get around the corner and you go, oh no, the summit's over there. That's kind of the way walking boss is. Let me see whether I'm going to be multitasking here. I'm going to see if Richard Bolt is also online here.
David's reporting that she's going to do the run hike approach, run steps and hike steps based on flags.
So the other, and I figured David knows this. I wish I could actually show you. So there's our awesome timer guy. He's bringing a laptop over to me, and because we're in a going to be alcohol zone later, he's essentially has to walk a 1/4 mile to come to me. No, it's like I can see the timing truck, and he's got to walk around all this stuff to get to me. But he's actually going to give me, so I'll be able to see chip timing coming through the bottom of Walking Boss from him. So I should be able to get other updates. One other thing with Lauren that's, she's like a lot of good mountain runners too. I know in high school she was also a Nordic skier. So like David said, the run hike approach, I think that's their dry land training for skiers as well. So Mike Peabody from Millennium Running, and I will give a huge shout out to Millennium. They just do such a great job with this race. So I will tell you, we had Lauren Gregory, and this is the bottom of Walking Boss.
Correct. Yeah. That's
okay.
Time when they got to the split.
So Lauren Gregory came through at 49:25 to the base of Upper Walking Boss. Next is Rachel, and she came through in 51 minutes even. So Lauren's put quite a gap on everybody. Next was Alex Lawson, the skier from Craftsbury. She's 6 seconds behind Rachel. And then Mary Sketch Bryant came in at 52:18, another minute back. Amber Ferreira was right with her. Then Megan Lacey is in 6th place. Megan came through another 10 seconds behind Mary and Amber. Right with Megan was Caitlin Patterson, is actually almost a full minute behind Megan, which kind of makes sense. Well, it'd be interesting to see if Caitlin can make up that ground climbing just with her ski background. She also was on the 2017 gold medal winning U.S. mountain running team. Margie Freed is next in 54:23. So she's pretty much with Caitlin. No, I'm sorry. She's a minute behind Caitlin. And then Lila Gadro, the 19-year-old runner from Cape Elizabeth, Maine, who the multi-time winner of the Mount A 50K over in Maine. She's came in at 54:57. And then Corey Dow is in 11th, 55:11. And I should say for Corey, I remember she said this to me at Whiteface. Whiteface is definitely more her race than this race. She's best at an up-down race because she's just fearless on the downhills. So it'll be interesting to see where she finishes on this as well. So I'm going to ask.
We're trying,
so yeah,
Patrick is trying to log back in. This coverage
all right.
is a little bit spotty. So I guess for next time, we will bring a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Yes. And instead you just get to hear me ramble on about
that's okay.
Running.
Sometimes, I feel like a lot of people have this on in the background, I think that it's good. People can cook their nice, lovely post-run breakfast here, listening to our voices, telling them what's going on.
Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see. So Lauren, I'm guessing. Okay, so we are not seeing Matt's feed.
No,
Hold
I
on.
don't see him. He's not in the. He's not an option for me to add. Thanks, Mitch. 603, really great.
So I can mention next after Corey Dow in 12th place to the bottom of Walking Boss, Alicia Cutter in 57.25, and Kristen Lane from Aspen, Colorado in 57.51.
Yeah, I wonder if we have a finisher yet for the women.
I'm guessing so. 49.25. We're probably close. Let me see whether, because I don't know on this screen. Let me see if I can find out from the timers again whether I will see finish line besides this. So I will be right back.
All right, no problem. All right, so Lauren having quite the race today. She's probably finished. Thank you for bearing with us. We will try to get a finish line cam. We're learning for each time. So I guess if we do this again, we're gonna, we'll add more things to the Excel spreadsheet. All right, thank you for being with us and just being on the stream and watching and being a fan. So Lauren looking like she's having a great race. Corey has faded a little bit, but it's who knows? A lot can happen in that last 0.4 of a mile. Oh. So we're working on getting, we have the timing. We're working, we'll keep you updated as we know, I promise, Anthony. Yeah, Anthony, thank you for joining. If anybody in the chat wants me to give a shout out to any runner, please put them in there. I love cheering on people. We have a lot of runners that are, not from New York or New Hampshire. And that's pretty rad that we got a lot of people to come around. One of my hometown people is Lee Berube. He's from Syracuse, and then Jared Burdick, also from Syracuse. Both really stout runners, and looking forward to seeing how they do today. All right, let's see if Paul has any update on any men positions.
I do not on men. I don't know. I guess we already got Camp 3 for the women. Mentioned Corey Dow, and then Alicia Cutter, Kristen Lane, Emily Stitt from Jericho, Vermont. She is another Nordic skier. She was, I believe, 7th last week at Whiteface. So she's obviously got the climbing skills in there as well. She was followed by Madeline and Hannah Reeders. They're both 23. They always run side by side. They've been doing the Mount Washington race for like 10 years. And they always run side by side. It's fun to see them. They're identical twins. And then they're followed. Anna Mae Flynn is in 17th place. She is about 9 minutes behind Lauren Gregory, just to give you an idea. Next is Tara Garrity Moats from Craftsbury, Vermont. Tara is actually part of the U.S. Biathlon Development Program, and she is also a Nordic combined athlete. She's been at the forefront of trying to get that sport in the Olympics for women. Unfortunately, it's not. It's just in for men, and they do have it now on the World Cup. She has the distinction, I believe, of being the first woman to win the overall World Cup for Nordic combined. But as I said, she's moved back to biathlon. We got a lot of Vermont people in this top 20 group. She's followed by Carolyn Stocker. Carolyn, she actually has been doing mountain running and snowshoe racing probably for 15 years, and she's only 29. I remember her from years ago as part of the snowshoe race series. Then Leah Nicholson, Annika Landis, Morgan Hawkins-Jackson, Kristen Dineski, Alyssa Anderson, and Mallory Walker are our top 25. I'm really excited to see Rachel was right on the heels of Lauren. On the heels, being a minute or two behind, but it's interesting to see how well she's recovered from whiteface. Because that's, we were talking earlier about that. Just wondering what was going to happen. In terms of her legs and everything else. I'm communicating by text with Joe Viget.
Joe is our finish line.
He's one of, yeah.
Pretty spotty coverage at the finish line. So we're trying to get a feed for everybody. Oh, look, do we have a Patrick? All right, looks like we have Patrick.
So Patrick, that is on Upper Walking Glass where he is. I bet that's Lauren coming through.
Woohoo! Here you go, Lila. Nice job. Can you guys hear me on the live stream?
Yes, we can hear you. Do we have a winner yet?
You just hear the bells.
Do we have a winner yet, Patrick? I'm guessing we do, only because of I think the people going by there would have looked like a couple spots back.
Yes, I think so.
And we lost the game. So Millennium is trying to get me. They're actually trying to get updates as well. The problem is now everybody up. We should make a cell phone ban, I guess, on North Peak for the race, because what's happened is all the spectators up there are now sharing the precious cell coverage up there, and so they were getting spotty reception back as well.
Yeah, that happens at Western States too. That's why the coverage looks kind of janky at all the 8 stations, is because
we need to create.
Everybody's really excited.
We need to create a secret cell phone jammer, so only people involved with Trails Collective can be on.
Yeah, we'll work on it for next.
Yes. And I should say hats off to Trails Collective. The idea for this came about when Ian and Ellie emailed Tom, I think Monday of this race. So we're going to try and make it better next year. We're excited we're able to do any of it, though. It's a work in progress with mountains and cell coverage, as probably anyone knows if they've attended a trail race and trying to get reception.
Actually, Tom emailed us.
Oh, okay.
Ian were unloading the truck at Whiteface, and Ian just looks at his phone. He's like, "Huh?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Want to do it again next weekend?" And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, "Can I have a day?" It was fun to do, but last weekend I was sick, so this is a lot better of a showing for me. I was really sick last weekend, and so actually after the live stream, I took a 3-hour nap, everybody. So that's just how it was. So this weekend, I think I'm doing a little bit more better energy and preparedness wise. So even though we don't have as much of coverage as we wanted, we're still trying to keep you guys involved. So, and to be fair, this is kind of what we want. We're talking to you, but it's, I think we're not as involved or not at the level of NFL. So you don't really, paying attention the whole time. You can do some other stuff, just listen to us in the background. We got you. It's going to be good. So Stephen Kerr, who has been shouted out in the chat a couple times, I am very glad that I now like differentiate between him and Stephen Kirsch, because Stephen Kirsch is also another really great runner. And I was like, oh, Stephen Kirsch is coming, but no, it's Steve Kerr, who he's been doing really well out here. So give a big shout out to him from Chauvin PE Coaching and Training. You know, we all can use more of that, can't we?
So I was checking on the Millennium Rebs website as well, and they don't have updates there either, but that makes sense if the guy here doesn't have it. Although I just heard an ATV come over, so that might mean the other low-tech way they do this is they, I can't tell now. It looks like, I'm going to go see, I'll be right back here.
All right, no problem. I can keep talking, obviously. You know, I'm pretty good at it. You know, what's pretty cool about me doing these two things is that I'm not extremely well versed in the short course community. And so, and obviously, I don't know if anybody knows, but Trails Collective, we host a podcast. And so it's been pretty interesting. I have a whole new list of people that I'm bringing onto the show. Actually, tomorrow I'll release an episode with Eli and Tabor Hemming. I had them both on, which was kind of fun, like a newlywed show, but they're not newlyweds, but you know, like a couple show. And so I also have a lot of other people on my list. So I think it's great to get more coverage of shorter course athletes, because I mean, this is like honestly the most relatable. Like, it's a lot easier to get people into the sport by being like, come do this 6 miler with me, and then afterwards we'll get breakfast, rather than like, you should come to my 50-mile race. All
right, I actually have updates from Joe Vijay via text. So it looks like there wasn't a lot of change in places. So our vertical mountain running champion is Lauren Gregory.
All right.
I don't have a time. Next, it's Rachel Tamachek. By the end of today, I'm hoping I pronounced Rachel's last name right. I always fear I hadn't. So in third place, let me see here whether I can get to top here. Next, it was bib 1519. So let me check that one. Looks like Alex Lawson stayed in third place. And then next, bib 1539. Amber Ferreira. So she was in fourth place at the finish, and then 1644. So that's going to be Mary, because I don't have her on my one list. And then 1578 was next. And that's Megan Lacey was next after Mary. And then next is 1360, which is Caitlin Patterson. And then 1612, which is Margie Freed. Another of the Craftsbury Green Racing Project. And then next was Lila Gadro. And then next was Corey Dow. So there's our top of the race there. I should give a shout out to Lila Gadro. Unfortunately, because of COVID, she was never able to apply for the U.S. Mountain Running Junior team or under 20 team. She ages out of that this year, because I should note, so I'm part of the mountain team staff, but I'm the junior team manager. So that's the under 20 group. And that team's picked all by running resume, which we include results from things like this. But Lauren actually has aged out Lila has aged out at this point. She's an open runner. But I need to, on that same theme, I'm going to give a huge shout out. One of the biggest things we try and do with the under 20 mountain team is we want to see people, and this is Walking Boss. Okay. We want to see junior runners love the sport, they go to college, they return to the sport. And it's been so fun now. I feel like proud team dad 2 weeks in a row. Tabor Hemming, she was on the 2013 and 2014 junior mountain running team, both medal winning teams. And then today, Lauren Gregory was bronze medalist in 2017 in Primana, Italy. So I'm really excited just to see both of them return to the sport and have success like that. Isn't that what we want? We want more young runners to stick with it. I hope any young runners following this who maybe are post-collegiate saying, well, maybe I'm a little tired of road running. Maybe they'll try out trails and mountain stuff too, which was great. So
yeah, I had Tabor and Eli on my podcast that'll come out tomorrow. And Tabor said, yeah, she was just getting burnt out with track, even very good at it, and then running on the road and doing marathons, she just didn't feel like that was going to be super fun for her. And so she picked up mountain running and, so there's a lot of different sports within our sport, as you say.
Yeah, and it's great to, sorry, I'm multitasking here, getting text updates. It's just great to see, and I know Tabor had said that, and she did collegiate running, and she, she did a great job at it. But yeah, I love that when she was talking about that, she fell in love with trails again. So I have updates for men at the bottom of Upper Walking Boss. And this is a pretty close race going on here, which is really cool to see. Joe Gray was the first one to reach that in a time of 40:09, less than, and in a time of 40:33, right behind him was Daniel Kurtz from Norwich, Vermont. This was a race, from what I understand from Dan, he's a road guy who's actually just been moving over to trails recently, which is just amazing to see. So it's cool to see him. And then right behind on him, another 20 seconds behind him is Andy Wacker in third place. And then Edward Owens in 41:27 is fourth. Eddie Owens he actually made the mountain running team last year, which unfortunately they never got to travel to Worlds. He was in the top 4. He actually won Loon last year here. He had come out to race kind of as a training run. Next, we have Remy Larue from Quebec. You probably know Remy more than I do from Ultra stuff.
I do,
so go ahead, go for it.
If we end up doing more live streaming, we want to get him on the team. I do know Remy from Breakneck, and then just a wonderful person, just communicated online a little bit. But he can also do all of this very fast with a camera in his hand. So take with that what you will.
That would be awesome. Next year we'll do that. So after him, actually with him 2 seconds back was Garrett Heath, what I know of Garrett is from World Cross.
I was gonna say he's a Brooks beast.
Yeah, so that's cool to see. I always love when we see the transition there. Next, Mike Popejoy from Flagstaff, Arizona. He was right with Garrett and Remy, so it looks like Remy, Garrett, and Mike all started Upper Walking Boss together. Mike, I know he's raced here at Loon before. He's also been on a couple U.S. NACAC teams that have competed. That's North American, Central American, Caribbean. Typically it's teams from Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. that compete in the mountain champs. And so I know he's been part of U.S. teams in the past. And then following him was Lee Berube, another 10 seconds behind. So Lee's coming through in 8th place. Sounds like he's recovered from Whiteface as well.
Yeah, incredible runner.
And next, Bijan Mazaheri. He came in about 10 seconds behind. And I apologize.
2:15 marathoner right there.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you have the info on, and I just learned about him from Patrick. Patrick was really talking him up. Next, we have Jake Brown from Crossbury Common. He is an Olympic biathlete. Jake was also a collegiate, I believe, D2 runner. He was 6th overall when this was a championship in 2018. So it's great to see him out there. He's followed by Mason Copy. It'll be interesting to see Jake's climbing legs, how he fares compared to Mason. They're followed in 12th by Everett Hackett. Everett was 2nd at the Race the Cog and also 2nd at Mount Washington behind Joe. He's another person who's transitioning over from roads. He's followed by Eric Blake. Eric, who is 43, but seems like he's still running like he's 23. It's crazy. He was first at the VK last week at Whiteface. And then Sean Dougherty in 14th. He's a Olympic biathlete as well, and I have to give the shout out. His mom was my kid's 6th grade teacher, so that's my connection to Sean Dougherty. So I just got news that Joe just won.
All right.
So yeah, Joe in 47:17, which means he made it up Upper Walking Boss in a little over 7 minutes.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Is that the record?
It's gotta be. I can tell you, for mere mortals like me, hiking it in my best conditioning, I think I was 11 something, and I'm a mere mortal, so I don't want to even compare. But
I
the
saw
fact,
it and I was like, I'd go backwards. Like, I'd have a negative no.
yeah, well, and it is one of those, like, if you're a good power hiker, it's the place to power hike. Like, you're not gonna, unless you're a person who really likes running on steep stuff, you're gonna do just as well. I remember Morgan Aratola, when she just made the transition from ski racing over to more trail and mountain running. I remember seeing her coming up, and she didn't have poles, but she was doing, I'll call it the Nordic run up the hill, and she was using her arms so much. It was great to see. So we'll have to see where Dan Kirk, if he comes in next.
A bus start in the chat says Joe's best on Upper Walking Boss is sub-7.
There we go. This is what I love about this. This is like our little universe of people who would know these things. So I love that someone knew that. So it looks like Dan Kurt came in second.
All right.
So what that means is Joe Gray and Dan Kurtz. Joe, that means he will get the spot for the vertical mountain race team automatically. It'll be interesting to see whether Dan does by resume. Also interesting to see, does Joe decide to do both races at Worlds? Will he do the classic race and this? There is enough time between races that he could do that. They will also be the two people that go along with Rachel and Lauren to the Challenge Stellina race. There'll also be one more by resume, but that's kind of a perfect training race. For those of you who have never been into a mountain race in Italy, I liken it to, if you've ever seen coverage of, well, probably UTMB, but if you've ever seen coverage of Tour de France, that's a mountain race in Italy. You know, you've got the course line with people with cowbells. I remember in 2014 at World Champs, about a kilometer from the finish, seeing there was a guy with a chainsaw. The blade was off, but he's just sitting there revving it to cheer people on. And that's the mindset of Italians with mountain running.
That sounds like some Pennsylvania.
Yes. And I can laugh at that because I'm originally from Pennsylvania too. It does. It sounds awesome. So it looks like Andy Wacker was passed by Eddie Owens. Eddie Owens is third. What that means is Eddie made up about 30 seconds on Andy on Upper Walking Boss. And I
have to say, probably after last weekend, the wheels came off for Andy on that Upper Walking Boss. I'd have to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'm guessing Andy had 0 left in the tank at that point, and Eddie had fresh legs, and that may have been his strategy. But that gives you an idea, and there's Alberto Stretti. So he is a journalist in Italy that I've met at Worlds. It's exciting. Hi, Alberto. Good to see you. So that's fascinating to me, though, that Eddie could gain 30 plus seconds on Andy. And as you said, Andy had tired legs, but to give you an idea, that's like 0.4 of a mile or so. Somebody had something left in the tank to do that. And it's crazy because it's like a slow motion race. I don't know if any of you have ever seen, I'm dating myself on this, but if you've ever seen the Seinfeld episode where George steals the cart and he has all the people chasing him. Well, that's pretty much what the race is on Upper Walking Boss. People aren't moving very fast at all. It doesn't look like much of a race, but you can get some people who blow up and then somebody's just going to power by them. And it looks like that's what's happened there. So I'll see if I get any more updates from from Joe. A big shout out to Joe Vijay, who's up there taking all the pictures and texting me the results. So
yeah, just look for the pictures afterwards, you guys. And next year we'll prioritize finish line feed, and we'll get Patrick has done a great job. He's tried so hard. I think it just, cell coverage, Wi-Fi is a little spotty on mountains. And to be fair, I kind of hope it stays like, I know it'd be great to have cell coverage, but I go into the mountains and I go out and run to escape from electronics. So I'm like a little bit on the fence. So that's why I'm like, maybe we could just bring a Wi-Fi signal with us and then leave with the Wi-Fi signal.
Exactly. No, it would be good. And we're just we're in a funky spot. Like there's some spots in the White Mountains, upper New York State. It's the same, like there's some spots where you suddenly have coverage. Where I live, I live in a valley, but I have no coverage at my house. I'm right near North Conway, New Hampshire. I'm able to have self coverage because of Wi-Fi calling at home. If the power goes out and I have to call to report it, I have to run up the trail behind my house to get to the top of a mountain to get cell coverage. It's just the funny nature. We appreciate everyone's going along with this. It's still fun to be able to broadcast out there and get the information out there. So we appreciate you sticking with us. Just to recap for anyone who joined us late, the top women were Lauren Gregory, followed by Rachel, followed by Alex Lawson, and the top men, Joe Gray, Dan Kurt, and Eddie Owen. So Ellie, I was thinking, you asked me earlier about the Cirque series. So do you want to?
Yeah.
We've got some time.
Well, I know that Loon is kind of part of like a New Hampshire running series, and I kind of like it that it's sort of in the same area. Whereas like the Cirque series is kind of like, if you were to do them all, you'd need to that's a lot of travel. And so I was just curious on like what your thoughts are about like if one of those could be mountain running championship, because it's a lot of vert. It's like it's kind of it's and they're beautiful too. But again, I like it that it's on the East Coast, so whatever. But have you heard of the Cirque series or?
Yeah, I actually have followed some of those. I remember that's actually where I first noticed Grayson Murphy, because her and Morgan Aratola were kind of battling it out at a couple of those races back in 2019. I love that because I feel like, if your first exposure to mountain running is an ultra, there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, I love if we can get people involved in the sport where it might be somebody who says, yeah, I've done some trail stuff, but I'm not ready to do an ultra. But yeah, I'll try running up this mountain. And, like anyone, there's plenty of people that hike the courses too. It's not like everybody's running every step. And so I love these short races. I've heard great things about the Cirque series. I would love to have them put in a bid for a future championship, because it's always just great. Like we've had a lot of qualifiers for the team or championships in the East. A lot of that has to do with I'm always willing to put on a qualifier, and Tom Hooper is as well. But we always love to get new people in. And with the Cirque series, like it's not like there's a question whether it's going to be a good race, because that's sometimes you can get caution of somebody thinks they can put on a great championship, but they don't have really enough course. Like, it's a hilly course. It's not a mountain course. The Cirque races would be great because they are true mountain courses, like you're saying.
And so I guess, I'm interested. Can you give a little bit of so what do these athletes just win? Like, so what is involved when going to these championship races? Like, do you pay for it? What do they do? Are there like panels, speaking, all that kind of what's like for us mortals, what's who probably might never get the chance to go. What are these things that these athletes are racing for?
And this is at the World Championships, you mean?
Yeah.
So the World Championships, I like to describe it as it's the mountain running Olympics. You have, I don't know how many teams we'll have in Thailand, but we typically, we'll get somewhere between 30 to 45 countries that will come to the race. there's an opening ceremonies where there's a parade of nations and you're going through, and that's always fun. You know, we vote on, you know, we'll pick among the team of who we think should carry the flag, just like the Olympics. And that's typically, so really the process will start in a week or two. We'll see who wants their spot on the team. Sometimes there's conflicts and people aren't able to make the team, and then we might have to ask the next athlete. But then we start working with the team managers do, and we start on the travel logistics to find out, because one of the things is we do not, you know, we're spread out around the country. We all travel on our own. The junior team has not been named yet. That's actually later in the summer, because that's all by race resume. But for the senior teams, you know, they get their team kits, which is, it's the full USA track and field, the same kit they just got at the 2022 Olympics. So they'll get a big giant USATF bag with a bunch of stuff in there. And I've never seen an athlete not be excited about getting that. If you think about it, you know, that's your country's uniform and it's the same stuff they wear in the Olympics. And I love seeing the excitement of when they all post that. And then it's a matter of, you start on the travel logistics, and we're working with the local organizing committee on housing. And then from there, I always like to say it's good to be able to be fluid, because often when you get to the champs, there's always a couple hiccups with travel and things like that. People will get there, and typically there'll be course previews 2 or 3 days before the actual event. There'll be the parade, and then the first race. I believe this year, I think the vertical race is first, and then I believe it's the 40K and 80K, and then the classic mountain race, which is the up-down race. And you'll have athletes, as I said, I don't know whether Joe will try and compete in both of those shorter races. But a lot of time for the athletes, they're really just trying to relax and chill. And as team managers, we're trying to make sure they can relax and chill. Like, there are technical meetings to discuss the course. We'll come back, we'll do updates with the team on, we might say, hey, they've changed the aid stations to this point, especially important for the 40K and 80K. You know, there might be things about like whether you can bring your own fluids or not, you know, or whatever the feed station details are, and making sure like buses and transport. Because our goal really is that the athletes go there, they get to chill, they get to recover, so they're primed and ready on race day. And then race day, they get up, you know, super early. It's getting on a bus, depending on, I don't know how close the hotels are this year to the start. Sometimes they're a half hour away. Sometimes it's, you know, within walking distance. It depends on the year. And then it's just go time. And it's always amazing to me to see just the grit and tenacity of all the different athletes. And it's such a great chance to, you know, be competing against the best in the world, especially, you know, at all the distances.
Yeah, it's quite an opportunity. And I think, you know, it seems, especially in the ultra world, it seems like sometimes the teams aren't as, not as prioritized, I think. And so I think in the sub ultra world, it's ultra trail world, I think it's a little bit more of a priority. And I think that's pretty awesome to get people like representing the US and representing their country. And so I think bringing these championships is a great way to do that.
Yeah. And it's, you're right. There are some challenges. And I know the Solomon Golden Trail Series also has its own championship that's kind of close to Worlds, which is a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, one of the cool things has been a lot of, you know, I don't want to say the mountain team is the only reason these athletes got sponsorship, but there's some pretty common household names in mountain and trail running that they first made a big splash on the short distance team. Hayden Hawks, this was, you know, he was on a team who, where did he compete? I think it was Bulgaria. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of just getting started with, he was already sponsored, I believe, by Hoka at that point. But, you know, there's other people like him that they became household names through this.
So results, and you can toggle between men and women now.
All right. So I have some info. We can start talking a little bit. About stats. I don't know any mountain runners and ultra runners who aren't interested in that. So just to give you an idea, so looking at the women, Upper Walking Boss, there were 4 women that finished it in under 10 minutes, and it's the same 4 fascinating. So Lauren Gregory was 9:11 on Upper Walking Boss with a finish time of 58:36. Rachel and Alex Lawson were exact same time on Upper Walking Boss, 9:24. And that's a close finish. They were 6 seconds apart at the finish. So Alex probably needed another 500 feet of vertical, and maybe she could have caught Rachel. But they were close by. And then Amber Ferreira in 9:39 on Upper Walking Boss. She finished in 1:02:08. So going over those top 4 again, it was Lauren, only one to break an hour in 58:36, and then Rachel in 60:24, Alex in 60:30, Amber in 62:08, and then Mary Sketch Bryant from Richmond, Virginia in 62:30, followed by Megan Lacey in 63:13, Caitlin Patterson in 63:40, Margie Freed in 64:41, Lila Gadro in 65:10, and then Corey Dow finishing out the top 10 there in 68:12. But it's interesting to see. I was kind of checking here. So it looks like Caitlin Patterson, although she finished 7th, she actually had the 6th best time on Upper Walking Boss, and Margie Freed had the 7th best time. And then we move over to Megan Lacey. So the 2 Nordic athletes were able to use their hill skills to pick up a little bit of time there. So let me move over to the men. I should mention also, and for you to see this as well, Ellie, the initial results, if you go to the Millennium website, you can see they've got the results there there'll be the most recent race on their website, and that's where I'm actually getting this for.
What's the website?
It's millenniumrunning.com, all one word.
All right, I will post that in the chat for everyone.
Perfect. And so if we look at the men, so Joe Gray, 7:10 on Upper Walking Boss, which is just phenomenal. He finished in 47:19. Dan Curtis was 7:48 on Walking Boss, and he finished in 48:21. So he was a minute behind Joe. And then actually, so it looks like oh no, it's that close. So it was Eddie Owens so that must have been a sprint at the end. No, I guess that got missed. Andy Wacker was 3rd. I'm sorry. So all of my talking of Eddie catching him was wrong, I guess. My apologies about that. Andy Wacker actually did come in 3rd in 48:53, and his Upper Walking Boss split was 7:55. We next had Eddie Owens. He came in 49:52. His Walking Boss was 8:25. So kind of actually the inverse of what I said. He actually slowed down on Walking Boss. Remy Larue, he was 7:52 on Walking Boss. Looking at a couple other fun stats there. So actually the second fastest time on Upper Walking Boss was Olympic biathlete Jake Brown in 7:42.
Oh, wow.
He finished 9th overall, but Jake is a beast on the hills, and they're kind of right in the middle of their dryland training. So that's always exciting to see. We had another Eric Blake was also sub 8 minutes. He was 7:59. So it looks like the people under 8 were Joe Gray, then Jake Brown, Dan Curtis, Andy Wacker, Remy Larue, and Eric Blake.
Wow, that's so impressive.
And also Stephen Kerr. So shout out to Stephen. He was 7:45. So actually he was the 3rd fastest on Walking Boss. So that's awesome to see.
So Paul, Drew Best in the chat asks, is this the same course as the last bunch of UWB finish years?
Yes, Drew. So Drew, they are finishing at the summit of Upper Walking Bus. So there's no descent back down to the gondola. So yeah, the last mile of the race is the exact same as what you'd be used to in the past, Drew. So they did the descent down, haul back, and climb up. In terms of the course on Upper Walking Bus, we're at the mercy of how they cut it. So sometimes you might get more of a switchback, sometimes not. I know this year there was one section they definitely didn't get switchbacks. It's probably a little steeper scramble, but pretty much, yeah, the same thing. Look, Burdick, he actually finished in 19th. He was 8:55 on Upper Walking Bus. Just kind of looking at some of these other times.
Who is it?
Jared Burdick.
Oh, wow. Great. Yeah, Jared is fantastic. I think he's actually going to go for a golden ticket at Black Canyon this year, which will be pretty interesting, fun to see. He's gotten one before at Lake Sonoma. And so it's been a couple years, though, since Jared's done 100.
So looking through some of the other Upper Walking Bus times, Sean Dougherty, another Olympic biathlete. He also competes for Vermont National Guard biathlon team. He came through Upper Walking Bus. He finished in 15th, but he came through Upper Walking Bus in 8:17. Another amazing climber. Fun little fact about Sean. Yeah, he raced this when he was 14, and I think he finished 20th overall. That was back when we had like 150 people in the race.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, and that was when he was just starting his Nordic ski career and just checking out biathlon too.
I was going to mention last week on the Trails Collective Live show, we had 3, I guess, teenagers, but sort of like 13, 14-year-olds on to talk with Eli and Tabor and some of the elites. And so I also think, in addition to it being a good introductory trail race for adults, I think it's also good for kids. Like, bring the whole family, they'll get through it, or walk with mom up this hill or walk with dad. And so I think, but also good to get a little competitive itch out where, especially if you don't have a track program or something. I think this distance is also manageable for teenagers.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see, the way the path people take. There were actually, one of the kids at, and I think he was top USATF under 20 at Whiteface, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was 13. And he does a lot of trail stuff. He's unattached, like he doesn't compete for his high school, and he just loves trails. And so it's always fun to see. Like, to me, there's a couple paths they can get to. I'd say the traditional route is they go through the high school cross country and college cross country and track, and then they find trails afterwards. But there are some people, like, it's interesting, Lila Gadro, I don't think she competes for her college team, and yet here she is, competing at national championships at 19 and doing this well, and she's been doing that for a few years. So it's always neat to see the different paths people get there, because I know there's some people, they don't want to compete, and competing in college. Now, Ellie, did you compete in college?
No, I started running when I was 22. So
okay. Yeah, and I played baseball, which is, I think, the antithesis of running.
Yeah, I was a volleyball player.
So, but it's always interesting, like, collegiate running, like any collegiate sport, it's a lot. It's a lot of work to manage the classes. It's depending on the program you're in, burnout. I'm always excited to see when we have collegiate runners continue after college. Some walk away and never want to run another step competitively. And so I love seeing the journey of the people that want to continue on. And I feel like I hear a common theme, especially for people out there listening, who are curious and say, well, should I try this stuff? It's a lot more laid back than road stuff. And I love the whole atmosphere of trail and ultra and mountain. It's like a great way, anybody can step in and do the race. I don't feel like there's a lot of bravado in it and stuff. And it's just such a laid back, casual scene, which I think is very welcoming to anyone who wants to check it out.
And I mean, there's nothing better than the experience of getting outkicked by a 12-year-old at a trail race. I have gotten outkicked by a 12-year-old. I remember this. It was like last year. It was one of the Finger Lakes running circuits, and I put in a good race. Like I was proud of it, like because it was hard. But no, he like outkicked me at the end. And then he is with his dad because I didn't really. He also had like an iPod playing music. I was like, "What is this joker?" And then he beat me, and it was great. And he was like, "That was my longest race ever." And I was just like, "I'm just gonna walk away now, child."
And he said it with such honesty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just ran the longest I've ever done. Yeah. It's always awesome to see that. But yeah, so I was looking through. I was curious back on the women on Upper Walking Boss. If we had anybody else in the low range climbing there. Lila Gadro, who was 9th overall. She was 10:43 on Upper Walking Boss, which makes sense. She loves stuff, but it's always interesting to go through. Let's see, Kristen Doneski, Kristen, I'll give a shout out to. She's the women's long distance running chair for USATF New England on the board. She's 51 and she finished 19th overall with a time of 10:38 on Upper Walking Boss. That's pretty phenomenal. She doesn't seem to have slowed down a lot. It's crazy to see how well she's doing. I could give
updates on the men's top 10.
Sure. And I'll mention, let me switch over to the men's race here. Yeah, so our overall top 10 for men, as we mentioned, Joe Gray was first in a time of 47:19, followed by Daniel Kurtz in a time of 48:21. Then Andy Wacker, 48:53. He's obviously recovered from last weekend. Eddie Owens, 4th. Remy Larue in 5th in a time of 50:16. Next was Mike Popejoy from Flagstaff, Arizona. He was 8:21 on Upper Walking Boss. He looks like about 30 seconds behind Remy. He was followed by Garrett Heath in a time of 50:57. Next was Lee Berube in a time of 51 flat. Interestingly, Lee came in 8:23 on Upper Walking Boss. He was a little faster than Garrett was. And then next was 9th was Jake Brown, the Olympic biathlete. He was 51:03. I don't know what he came in on Upper Walking Boss place wise, but at the base of it. But yeah, as I mentioned, he was 7:42. So I believe he was the second fastest up the Boss. Rounding out the top 10 was Mason Copy. Mason, I think, is based out of Syracuse now, originally from California. He was finished in 51:48. So he was 8:21 Upper Walking Boss. If we keep going, next was Bijan Mazaheri from Glendale, California. He was 9:08 on Upper Walking Boss and 51:57. So he was a little slower on Upper Walking Boss. And then 12th and top master, Eric Blake from West Hartford, Connecticut, age 43. He's been on a lot of mountain running teams. He was 7:59 on Upper Walking Boss, 52:44. Eric's an interesting, if you ever look up, I forget where he posts his training, but Eric does almost all of his vertical training on a treadmill. He lives in Hartford, Connecticut. He actually went to Whitefast last week just to get some time on trail instead of treadmill. And it obviously has paid off. But yeah, he just goes out and does 60 minutes at whatever pace he can. And that's kind of his workout. Then in 13th was Everett Hackett, who I know he trains with Eric. Eric's been working with him. I believe he won the Hartford Road Marathon this year. He was in 53:04, 8:35 on Walking Boss. And then keep going on the 14th and 15th. That was Stephen Kerr, 7:45 on Upper Walking Boss, 53:23 overall. And then rounding out the top 15, Sean Dougherty, also the Olympic biathlete, and he was 8:17 on the Boss and 53:32. So always interesting to see how people handle that last section and who jumps up in different spots.
Oh, Bijan getting a mathematical computing PhD.
Yeah. And you know what? So probably running up Upper Walking Boss is not intimidating to him at all.
Yeah, I doubt it. He's probably like, oh, this is actually mentally easy.
Right. That's what I was thinking. He probably is dealing with, he has a mental strength that puts him in the top 3. That's impressive. So shout out to him. That's an awesome job. He's 28. He runs for the Cal Coast Track Club. Always great to see people coming from around the country. I think we'd mentioned it earlier. We had people from about 27 states and a few Canadian provinces. We've always had a great contingent from both Quebec, usually New Brunswick, and a few others, and then COVID. And so last year, I don't think we had anybody from Quebec because it was still too funky to get through on the border. But like for people from Montreal area or otherwise, this is a very close race to get to. So from that standpoint, we've had some great Canadian runners here. It was great to see Remy come here. I don't know where Candiac is in Quebec, but it's always great to see them come down to do stuff here. We've also had I forget her name. She's from New Brunswick. She does some ultra stuff. I'll have to look her up. She was on the Canadian mountain running team back in 2019 that competed in Argentina. She's competed here in the past.
Well, speaking of these great athletes, if people who are still watching, if you have, let's give me 3 women and 3 men. If you have each, who do you want me to bring on the podcast? Who do you want to hear more from? Who do you think is, an athlete that might not have as much coverage as, either maybe they should or they have an interesting story. It doesn't need to be like someone that won. So in the chat and post chat, or you can direct message me on Instagram at Gazelli or at the Trails Collective. Let me know who you would like to see from, and I will gladly try to bring them on the show.
So I'll give a shout out real quick while we have a captive audience. So we have a USATF New England mountain running circuit. You had mentioned the circuit out west. So this is very cool. It's an 8-race series. It was started by Dave Dunham, who he was actually second, I believe, in the world back in the 90s for the US mountain running team. He was one of the along with Nancy Hobbs, the first people to explore, hey, look, there's this whole mountain running scene in Europe. Like, let's try and get involved with it. And Dave's a multi-time winner of the Mount Washington road race. And he even will say this, he started the mountain circuit because he wanted some races to train for Mount Washington. And so it started with 3 races back in 1996. It's still going. It's now 8 races. It's in the states within the New England region, which if you're not familiar with USATF associations, for whatever reason, Connecticut and Maine are their own associations. So we don't have races in Maine, but we have several races in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. We don't have any mountain races in Rhode Island, but once they make mountains in Rhode Island, we would happily add one in. So that's the only reason we don't have any there. But we typically,
Rhode Island.
Yes, exactly. But it's 8 races, kind of a fun one. The first in the series is the Sleepy Hollow Mountain Race, which is put on by Casey Enman and her husband Eli. And Liz, and I can't remember Liz's name, but it's kind of a fun, Casey, World Mountain Running Champion 2011, numerous 50K winner in Europe. She came back. She wants to get back to the sport. And so she organized one of the races. So you get to go and run a race that's put on by a world mountain running champion. And they just do this really fun job there. They have Eliza LaPierre, who some may know from the ultra world. Well, Eliza dresses up as Darth Vader. And they have trails on the course that are named, it's in a Nordic ski area that are named after Star Wars stories. And so she dresses up as Darth Vader on the course. So
that's fun.
Yes, and there was actually Richmond, Vermont just had the Eliza LaPierre Fan Club Ultra.
We just
yesterday.
saw that. Ian was like, want to go run that? And I was like, I don't think I'm good enough.
Yeah, so that just another shout out there. I think that's Eric LaPuma and others from Richmond Running, Joanna Fortier and Eric, and I don't know who else involved with that. But I digress. The races, there's one in Ascutney, Vermont. There's the Greylock Mountain Race in Massachusetts, Wachusett Mountain Race, Loon Mountain Race, which we're at here, Waterville Valley, which is another one here in New Hampshire, and then the Cranmore Mountain Race. And did I count up 8? I hope I didn't forget any. But it's a fun series because it started, and Packmanadnock. How could I forget Packmanadnock, which is also in southern New Hampshire. The series is a mixture of road mountain races, trail mountain races, and some up and down. So you really get a variety of races. Packmanadnock is like a hilly road race until the last mile where you climb into Monadnock State Park. And then you have Ascutney, which goes up their auto road, which is a paved road. And that's like literally half of Mount Washington. Loon, you've heard about that. Cranmore is a multi-lap up and down race. Waterville Valley kind of hits all the peaks there. That was the mountain team championships in 2019. Greylock is also a road race, and Wachusett is a road race as well. So it's an interesting mixture. Huge participation numbers. One of the big reasons to do it for anyone who's a USATF member is if you do 6 of 8 races in the series, you get a bypass to next year's Mount Washington Road Race, which for those of you not familiar with Mount Washington, it's about a 50% success rate to get into their lottery. So this guarantees you that you get into the race. You know, you still have to pay for the race, but that you get in. And so once Mount Washington was allowed us to do that, which is sometime late 2000s, we typically will have what we call mountain goats, anywhere from 100 to 150 who do 6 of the 8 races, which is just fun. You know, you can imagine you start seeing the same people all the time. You get friendships that are made, and then, you know, probably there's 300 USATF members that participate in parts of the series. But it's a great way in New England to try out mountain running. And even if you don't want to do trails, there's races on roads too. So if you're looking to transition and, hey, I want to try out a mountain race, but I don't want to run on trails yet, it's another great way you can do it.
Mm-hmm. So I don't believe, because we don't know when the awards are going. Paul, is there anything else you want to mention before we round it out? Thank you everybody for watching. We had some feed, we didn't have some others, but I think everybody knows what happened, so I think next year we'll figure out the Wi-Fi situation, because really I think that was just our hiccup.
Yeah, and I think, when we had tested Upper Walking Bus yesterday, there weren't 100 other people sharing the cell coverage at the same time. I'm sure that was part of it. But yeah, thank you everyone for sticking in. We really appreciate it, and thanks Ellie and the Trails Collective for sponsoring and hosting all this. It's just amazing to have people following the race and everything. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And remember, leave comments you can continue to leave comments in both Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Let me know if you want me to reach out to any of these amazing athletes. I'd love to hear their story. So yeah, thanks everybody.
All right. Thanks everybody. See you later.